What's up, you guys? It's Twizzle here, and I'm back with another video entitled Why Poverty is Difficult to Solve in Africa and around the world. I don't know whether it's what I would call this, video title. After I'm done with this thing, I'll have to have a look. But the whole essence of this video is to talk about why the issue of poverty is such a difficult thing to actually solve. And this is coming from, me reading a book last year called The Richest Man in Babylon, which is a very tiny book, but funny enough, it goes into a lot of, topics concerning human behavior is what I can say. And in this book, if I'm to break it down, what happened was in Babylon, when Babylon was, great back in those days, before the death of Christ, AD, BC, sorry. Is it before BC? When Babylon was great, the king of Babylon, I think Nebuchadnezzar at that time, looked around and saw that his people were living in poverty. And this is, at a time where Babylon itself as a city was great, but the people in the city were still struggling financially and, struggling in terms of resources and so on. They were living maybe, let's just say, paycheck to paycheck and so on. So the king called his advisors and said, why is it that with all the industries, with everything that we've done in Babylon, the projects, the infrastructure, whatever the case is, why is it that people are still poor? It's the same thing. It's the same discussion that relates even to today's current, world. These countries like our country, even in South Africa or around the world in Africa, you find over the years, so many things have happened in terms of projects, infrastructure, funds, grants, name it, every type of activity that has happened financially. But at the end of the day, the poverty line still seems to grow more and more. Even after black empowerments and whatnot empowerments, the poverty line still seems to grow much, much further and further down the line. And why is this problem? And so, like in The Richest Man in Babylon, they found that money money circulates. And one has to find a way in which when that money circulates, it has to either improve you or it has to grow, or it will just circulate through you and you will lose it. By that, what I mean is this. They call The Richest Man in Babylon to sort of give a tutorial to these young men in Babylon. And one of the concepts that he started with was that for every amount that you earn, you take 10% of that amount, and that is kept aside as your savings and something for your future. And then you can take the 90% of that and use it, which is a concept and a principle that, many of us never grew up with. Such a tiny thing, but such a very useful thing. I think this video might be, longer than I even anticipated. But anyway, basically what it means is that even as we live, if we took just a little portion or a small portion of what we earned and set it aside for our future, over time, that small portion accumulates and grows, and we gain more stability financially. And we have more resources with which to use to build our lives and our future. So what seems to happen is usually in our African culture, if I can say that, but even around the world it happens. When we earn a living or we get resources, we tend to direct those resources to spending entirely. And so at the end of the day, you find yourself being in the very same position. You spent, and now you have not. So to avoid that sort of cycle of that, because from, let's just say, when African countries got independence from the 19-somethings, people have been working. Our parents have been working, grandfathers have been working, and so on and so forth. But we find ourselves still fighting the issue of poverty growing and growing and growing. It's because all these resources recirculate in such a manner that they earned and they spent, so there's nothing left for the building of, let's just say, your family, yourself, and so on and so forth. So How then do you start to break from that sort of cycle of, let me just say, poverty? But in the case of the richest man in Babylon, that cycle was a cycle of being broke. So the richest man in Babylon sort of advised the young man that for every amount that you earn, take 10%, put it aside, and that 10% will eventually begin to accumulate. And now you have more money, saved up aside, that even if you don't earn, you still have a savings there that is like an emergency savings. But he used this in the context of an egg. If you've got chickens that lay eggs, and let's just say your chicken lays 10 eggs, and you take out of those 10 eggs, 9 eggs you use to eat, and then 1 egg you leave in a basket. Over time, that basket will fill because you keep on leaving 1 egg every day that the chicken lays eggs. And so even the day that the chicken does not lay eggs, you still have a basket full of eggs. The same concept happens, in society with the resources that we receive. We have to take a minimum of 10%, set it aside for future uses, for wealth building, resource building, and to build our societies and so on. In order to solve the issue of, let's just say, poverty and all these socio-economic issues, it starts from what they say a microeconomic level. It's not a macroeconomic. Sometimes we look at it on a macroeconomic thing where we look at employment and so on and so forth, but it also has to start from a microeconomic level where the people that are employed need to learn to use, I'm going off the camera here, need to learn to use those resources that they earn from their employment so that it can benefit them and their family. Because otherwise, people just work and work and work and work, and then after years, they still end up in the same place where they started from. So just one issue that I wanted to sort of share, that, even, to solve the issue of poverty, it has to start from a microeconomic level. It has to start from people individually understanding how the use of resources works. Not only individuals, but also companies understanding the use of resources. Debt is a bad thing. They say not all debts are good and so on and so forth, but sometimes many of us get into debts that we do not understand the effect of and how debt really affects our progress in life. So basically, I wanted to say, in order to change, what this whole story or scenario or narrative of poverty is, it's not just throwing more money at the society in order to save them, grants, funds, and everything, and talking about the issue of poverty and so on and so forth, but it's about getting the right education into societies in order that people can know how to use resources and can know how to also build for themselves for the future. I don't know if this was well articulated, but I tried. I'm still trying. But yeah, that's just something that I wanted to share. It's just an opinion of, what I think, might be the issue with solving poverty, and also, some of the ways in which poverty can start to be solved at an individual level in Africa. And, it starts from there, the individual level, and then it grows out to it grows to a community level, and then further on to a national level, and then on to an international level. But it all starts from the little community level or individual level or a home. So yeah, that's that. That's all I wanted to share, and I'll post another video. As they say on YouTube, click like and subscribe, and yeah, that will be much appreciated. Thank you. Should be looking at that camera. Thank you.